What's good, everybody? Hey,
What
everyone. Mack and Black again. As you guys probably noticed, I'm not with my usual co-host.
I ate Black.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Black portion, he may be in New York, or maybe my co-host for the day ate him. We don't know. But either way, Miro Wieslow from the Boss to Boss podcast. My man, it was really awesome meeting you. Thanks so much for coming on and helping us out. I was out last week, so Nick was solo in the studio. And we're holding it down for Nick. He is in New York, guys. So hopefully Nick is having some fun out there in New York. But
Nick's living a life, huh?
He is, man. He is, and it's awesome living vicariously through him. He was at the Yankees game yesterday, so I hope he had fun because New York is it's a fun city. It's there's a lot to do.
Are you trying to say podcasting pays? Pays very well, huh?
I don't know. I think, man, I don't know what Nick's just a hustler, man. He just he finds a way, and I love that about him. But Miro, thank you so much for this, man. Appreciate it. So yeah, Miro is from the Boss to Boss podcast, correct?
Yes,
so tell the viewers a little bit about Boss to Boss, if you could.
Yeah, it's just a show about pretty much taking you from being a boss, being bossed around at some point in your life, and now being a boss. But that doesn't mean you have to run a business. Yeah. It just means taking control of your life and being able to say no. Like I'm leaving the 9-to-5 life. I'm leaving the cubicle life. Right. I'm not going to just be pushed around, shoved around, and kind of been documenting my journey of going down that path and then being in a very bad place and getting out of it, and interviewing many other individuals that have done similar things. So if you're looking to kind of get past that cubicle life and move on to bigger, better things, check out the show. It's called Bossed 2, the number 2, Boss. Actually,
I'm wearing the shirt. Perfect branding. Perfect branding. Yeah. I'm wearing a Wu-Tang shirt. We haven't gotten our.
They're paying you, right?
They're not paying me. You know what? I might have to call Method Man or something like that about a payment. But yeah, no, guys, check out Boss to Boss podcast. I had a chance to listen a little bit to the one you had last week with. I think she was like a what
Shell.
Yes. That was really interesting conversation, and
she runs like one of the biggest meditation podcasts.
Wow,
there is.
Yeah,
huge. Like 10, like I don't even know. I think she has millions. I think she hit like the 4 million mark in downloads or something.
There was a couple of gems in there, guys. In just, I think I got like 7 minutes in. She's giving out free jewelry over there, so that was awesome. So guys, check out Boss to Boss podcast. But the main reason why I wanted to talk to you, Miro, my man, it's amazing to have another White Sox fan to talk to. We were talking about this before the podcast. It's tough to find. So both of us have this in common. Most of our friends are Cubs fans.
Yeah, I would say we're 98%.
Yeah. Mine is a vast majority too. I think I probably have. I got a lot of friends who watch sports, so I have to lower the percentage a little bit. But I would probably say less than 5% of my total friends are White Sox fans. So, but man, the White Sox. I'm glad I can finally talk in depth with the White Sox. Yeah. So you're so tell me a little bit, how did you get into the White Sox? Because I have a cool story too, but tell me a little bit about how you kind of got into the White Sox, because it sounds like you really love them and you really invested in the team, and it takes almost a start to get there. So how did you get there?
Oh man, I'm glad I'm coming fresh off an interview, because that's kind of what it feels like. But,
okay.
No, it's awesome. It was the first ever professional sports game I ever went to when I came here. After I came here to America from Poland when I was 5, and then I came probably at the age of like 6 or 7. I went on a school field trip. They took us to a Sox game.
That's cool.
Even though I live right by Wrigley, pretty close, they took us to the Sox game instead, probably because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love. Like, that was it. It was one of those childhood memories. Looking at those blue seats they used to have, right?
Yeah, it was the blue seats in the
blue seats.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things that stuck with me. And,
for sure.
And then something about rooting for the underdog in the city.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like you were saying, you go. Most of the Sox fans and friends that you get are the ones you actually find like at the stadium.
Right. Yeah.
You don't just find them like on the streets.
No.
We're there. We're there, and we're proud. And as you get older, as you start, picking up new hobbies, you maybe take over run a business or something. You don't have as much time to dedicate to sports too. So Sox has been one of those things that I have stuck with from day one. And
Yeah.
I guess that's why I'm here, right?
So there's something about baseball that you could have baseball on in the background and like do something, and the fact that there's like a game pretty much every day for, almost 5-6 months.
How depressing is it though when there's no Sox game?
Yeah, I know. For me, the thing is, that's the difference between us here, because you sort of have this, undying love for the White Sox, but it sounds like you're just kind of like, sports in general is tough to keep up with.
I still
it's
love them,
time-consuming.
but there's so many things going on. I mean, unless you're in the industry, I feel like, and you're working it.
Yeah.
It's just hard to keep up with everything.
It's tough. Yeah. No, I mean,
but that's why you tune into shows like the Mack and Black show, the
yes,
podcast,
sir.
where you in a couple hours you get your whole weekly dose.
Yeah. No, I love that, because
and you could call into the show, just not today.
Yeah, not today, guys. But yeah, next week we should have Nick back in the studio. But yeah, no, you and I have both have similar stories to the White Sox, because my dad is an immigrant. He never really got into the sports part of things. Oh, yeah. Too busy just, working his ass off, and looks at me like I'm a spoiled brat. But no, he took me to my first baseball game, was a White Sox game. And I honestly don't remember much from it, but I like you said, it just sticks with you. And I think from then on out, it was this big underdog thing, right? Because my brother and my sister are both Cubs fans. And I think everyone probably listening remembers the age of the Cubs, where the Bartman era happened, the Sosa era, and there was just so much buzz about the Cubs. And
everybody was probably tuning in at that point.
Absolutely,
I even tuned in.
Yeah. I mean, it was
in Chicago.
The whole Sosa McGuire thing, where they were going back and forth about
that's
home
once
runs.
in a lifetime.
Yeah, you don't see that, and it's crazy that we got to see that. But yeah, no, that's sort of my path to the White Sox, and very similar to yours. So my man, I think it's almost that we don't even know where to go from here. There's so much to go into, but
there's frustration, there's pride, there's like excitement for the future.
Yeah,
I feel like it's such a whirlwind.
I know. It's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster. You see these other teams have these sort of
competence.
And not only that, the growth on some of the teams, right, is so exponential that you're seeing. Like the Braves are a perfect example of a team last year that not a lot of people expected anything out of them. Then they have like 4 or 5 guys that were not expected to do very much, and were too young. And all of a sudden, guys like Acuna and Albies, they come in there and they're one of the best teams in the NL. So we're hoping for that for our team.
And it's just sad because we've had all these picks, all these top picks in all these years, and what can we show for it? Like, which one of the first round picks is actually going to make an impact? Rodon's been on the shelf.
Yeah.
Maybe Madrigal.
Maybe Madrigal.
He looks very hopeful. I mean, I'm super pumped for him. But
like Jake Berger was a tough one. I like the kid Vaughn that they selected this year.
Yes, going forward.
But
then again, I had that excitement feeling with Berger.
That's true. Exactly. You see this guy who can hit everything in college, and you think, man, that's going to transition well. Berger's coming off of now 2 serious year-long injuries almost.
He tore his Achilles 3 times?
3 times. And, it's after a while, you kind of have to look at a guy and go, maybe we can't count on that guy anymore. Yeah. So, another example is, I know Zach Collins he came up earlier this season. Mm-hmm. He had a nice ride in the big leagues. His first at bat, he hit a home run. I think everyone, including me and you, probably were like, "Oh my God, this guy's going to be a stud."
It was one of the coolest notification updates I've seen.
Amazing, yeah. I was.
And then he went like 1 for 26 after that.
Exactly. That's sort of the tough pill to swallow. Is development. There's a part of that that's frustrating, right? Mm-hmm. Where you see, oh my God, he flashes the power in the first at bat, and then the next 25 to 30 at bats, he comes back down to earth. So. We don't, but here's the thing, though. The White Sox, because of their trades, have done such a good job of filling up that farm system with guys that they haven't drafted. That's been a little bit easier to swallow. I mean, we talked about Dylan Cease and Michael Kopech. Cease is up right now. He's had a so-so start to his career, but they needed him. Yeah. We didn't have another guy to trot out there. And then Kopech is coming off of Tommy John. So he's probably an option for next year, but we never know with Tommy John, right?
I'm really happy with what they got in those trades.
Yeah.
A year later now, but then it's just when you look at all the players they're going to supplement them with, and you look at the rest of their farm and what they've actually drafted, and
tough.
how they struck out this whole entire last offseason.
Yeah.
Like, will they make something out of it finally?
Yeah. I mean,
it's going to be such an important offseason.
And I don't know how you felt about this, but at the time, obviously, the Manny Machado thing was really ginormous.
I couldn't sleep.
Me neither. I was all in. I mean, people making fun of me still to this day on my social media because every single day it's looking more and more like the White Sox are going to sign Manny Machado. And then, you find out that essentially the team offered him a bad, really undercut him in negotiations, and tried to make excuses for it later, saying, well, technically our deal would have been worth more than the Padres did. No, just give the guy his money and let's start this thing,
And he gets to the point where they make you feel stupid as a fan.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And it's like, damn, I'm over here committing so much time, money, effort. I go to games, talk about them.
Yeah.
So you hope that these things get settled and figured out.
Yeah.
And that going forward, times are better. I mean, you hope that they're geniuses, right?
Right.
You hope that maybe everything they're saying and we're the dumb ones. I hope so.
I really hope so too, because if you're looking at the team as it currently is constructed right now, they have potential for next year, but they've got a lot of moves to make over the offseason if they want to contend next year.
And they're starting 9 on the roster, not the pitchers. Like, who's actually going to be around? Anderson?
Right. Yeah. Maybe Anderson. Maybe Moncada. I'm not surprised that they kept Abreu. I'm actually happy. I'm a real big Abreu guy. I think he's a locker room guy to the core.
He provides zero actual field value.
Yeah,
totally zero.
But the guy is a consistent hitter. We have a lot of young Cuban players, including Luis Robert, who we talked about earlier.
Or is it Luis Robert?
Robert. We don't know. I want to be French. I'm going to say Robert.
Anyway.
I'm going to say Robert. But yeah, no, that's funny you mention that because right now your outfield probably has one guy in it, right? Eloy.
Oh yeah, and Eloy.
So then you're looking at Moncada, Eloy, Anderson. And McCann looks like he probably earned himself a spot on this team.
One half of a catcher, yeah.
Sure, and hopefully Collins is ready by next year, so you've got a righty-lefty combo.
If he sticks as a catcher, right? Because that's the main.
I think they want to move him to first, right?
Which then you got Abreu, then you got possibly Vaughn right there.
Yeah.
And Gavin Sheets.
Gavin Sheets, yeah. And you've got a couple guys who have torn it up in AAA and AA. Skoll, he came up earlier. He was hitting pretty nicely.
Not to make us seem like, we're past our prime, but he is like 30.
He's like 30,
31.
right? He's due for being out of the big or out of the minor league.
It sucks, but it's true. It's unless he just kills it all of a sudden.
Right.
But he's not killing it.
Yeah. But
he had a couple of hits here.
Here's the thing, Merrill. I think looking at the pitching staff, though, I think I'm a little bit more encouraged with the arms than I am anything, right? Because we saw the jump that Giolito. I am. So let me tell you. So Giolito last year has one of the worst seasons ever for a pitcher. Okay, it wasn't a good season.
I think it was like top second or third.
He was second or third from the bottom in ERA. Comes this year and basically has ace stuff now. To me, that's a sort of indictment on the training staff. Cooper, he's been around for a long time, and there's a lot of people calling for his head right now. I'm not one of those guys. I don't know about you, but to me, the White Sox have tried to bring in these recycled products over the last 4 or 5 years, right? These guys that didn't work out in other organizations, they bring them in and
Irvin Santana, Santiago for the 8th time.
Yeah,
Hector again.
Hector Santiago seems like his 8th stint with the Sox. It worked out in a couple of circumstances, right? You've got like Aaron Bummer, who's a guy right now.
I hope I never see Dylan Covey.
Yeah,
I will. I don't know what else I'll be able, what I'm going to do with myself if I see him again.
Here's the thing with Covey, man. He was a throw-in in that trade for Eloy. He was a part of the Quintana for.
Covey?
Oh no! I'm thinking of you're right, Dylan Covey. Oh my God, I always confuse Dylan Cease and Dylan Covey. That's on me. My bad. Covey. My God. Yeah, and here's the thing. Their excuse for trotting him out is, well, he's an innings eater. He also gives up like 8 runs per outing.
The last couple outings, he didn't get out of the first inning.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where I think the White Sox aren't motivated. If they were like maybe 4 or 5 games back, in July, I think they probably would have maybe even thought about making a run. But when the team exited the All-Star break and when I think it was like we lost like almost 7 games, 7 out of 8
7
games.
in a row.
Yeah,
And then
7 in a row.
9 out of 10.
And
that was heartbreaking.
and as a fan,
rough.
Miro, you almost look at in the mirror and go, maybe I had too high
You know what that
expectations.
reminded me of? Like the 4 years ago when he started out like 24 and
I worked for the White Sox. Yeah, we were in first place, almost going into
best record in the entire league.
Yeah, and you saw the collapse. You know that happened, and that was tough because that was under Robin Ventura's watch.
It's heartbreaking.
And and for a team like I was around in 05, but I wasn't. I was a young kid, and I know that there's have been some good teams between 05 and 08, but.
But it's all just been mediocre.
Mediocre,
I feel like it's just been half. Do you swear here?
Oh yeah,
half-assed.
We don't like to, but I have to sometimes. No, I agree. Very
feel like
half-assed.
it has been.
Yeah.
And
it's a makeshift almost.
Yeah.
They've tried a couple times.
It's always been like just enough.
Right.
Just enough.
And to me,
maybe that worked. 50, 60 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, it was so outdated. It was just not the way that teams were doing it. And you look at other teams around you and you go, the White Sox are just continuously trotting out like the James Shields trade is just, to me, we're going to be killing ourselves about that for probably the next 20, close to 20 years with Fernando Tatis.
How do you feel about Tatis going down?
It's sad for him because he's a young kid, but he'll be back strong.
Yeah, I think it's not going to.
No,
and they're not going anywhere this year.
No, they're trying for the wild card. But here's the thing about the Padres: they surprised a lot of people with the Manny stuff because they went out and got Hosmer. They went out and got Hosmer the year before, and it didn't work out at all. And people within the organization kept saying in the media, "We're gonna try. We're gonna keep trying."
Consistent. I mean, he only had like a 1 or 2 WAR.
His metrics are very mediocre at times, but I understand what they tried to do with
I think he makes
move.
up for it with the defense, right? Isn't he like
very good defensively?
gold
and
at one point, right?
he won a World Series with Kansas City.
Yeah.
I think it's worth having a guy in the clubhouse that you can
at least they're
depend
showing
on.
that they're willing to do something.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's that willingness.
And I think they tried to do that a little bit too much with the Manny stuff, right? Because they were almost doing this for the fans, almost to say, "Look, guys, we're trying."
Hey, sometimes you got to win over your fans.
That's
right?
true. I mean, the White Sox tried to do that.
We're putting in money. They tried.
They tried, but it didn't. We don't have anything to show for it.
And then
but,
they're just telling us that, oh, look, we offered this much money.
So terrible. And if you listen
but
to
if
Manny,
you know you're not going to win it, what's the point of offering it?
And listen, you went out and got his brother-in-law, Alonso. You went out and got his best friend in John Jay. And I think every White Sox fan looked around and went, "Oh, we got this guy. We have the money."
I was like tingling.
Me too.
I had the tingles. It was a great feeling.
You know how invested I was in it, Miro? I saw that his Rawlings glove, the official glove that Rawlings chose for him that year, was black, white, and silver.
Yep.
And I went, "Oh, that done deal. Are you kidding me?" And then you find out that they put so many of these little incentives in the deal that basically you didn't need to have.
He couldn't opt out.
And not only that, they wanted to be like, well, we want to make sure your performance is on par. When you got a once in a almost lifetime shot at a guy like that, you take that shot and you run with it because you don't have a lot of money on the books over the next 3 seasons. I mean, Anderson, Abreu's a free agent after this year. Anderson, Eloy, and I think maybe even like a guy like, you don't really even have, like, I think Alex Colomé's got another maybe year or 2 on his deal too. So
one more year after this.
Yeah, so you don't have a ton of money committed to it. You know what? Just run with it and go get your guy. And to me, they gave lame excuses for the reason too, which sucked. And
the money that they were like short on, was it $25 million at the end?
It was $25 million, but then Kenny Williams came out and said, "Well, that 25 could have been $50 million with incentives." Don't give me that bullshit.
Which they wasted on a number of guys, aka Alonso,
Kelvin Herrera,
John Jay.
I mean, John Jay's making
Ivan
$5
Nova
million.
has been decent, but still. You add all that up, I think it's like almost $30 million.
Yeah.
And then there's that money right there.
And people forget that you traded for Colomé with Narvaez, who was killing it last year.
26.
And man, Seattle's sitting pretty with him right now because they're looking at his production.
Years,
3 more years,
3 or 4 more years.
Yeah, and listen, Colomé's been good. I will say that Colomé has been impressive, but it's one of those things where you'll have to see how things shake out over the offseason. He might be a trade chip for them.
Are you shocked they didn't trade him?
Not really.
And then
really.
The next day he gave up like 4 runs.
Yeah, I know. No, here's the thing. He was bound to sort of, regress a little bit. But I think what they saw was they chose the wrong window to try and trade him. His value was super high 3 or 4 weeks before they were looking to trade him, and they weren't committed to it. I don't really fault them for that because I think he'll be a big chip for us. Sorry, guys. This podcast is brought to you guys by Pod River Network, Intrinsic Marketing, and Nux 3-in-1 Refresher Spray. I was told by Steve that you had a chance to try our Nux spray here.
Yes. I've been waiting for this moment this whole episode. Yeah. I thought I'd get to it sooner, but if you're listening, you finally made it to the best part of the show.
Yeah, right.
Introducing Nux 3-in-1 Men's Refresher Spray. mynux.com. That's KNUCKS.
Yes, sir.
So I finally got to put the product on.
Yeah.
On my undercarriage. And let's just say, man, I can't remember the last time it felt so good.
Yes, sir.
It was so refreshing.
Yeah.
And it's been like maybe a good 2 hours. No stickiness. So, guys, if you're tuning in here, listening to sports and you're playing sports and you have to walk, when you have to walk around, you got to go in that weird,
it's the worst, dude. Yeah.
Like you're standing in front of like couple ladies or something, and you gotta man,
and you don't know how to adjust, and I actually was helping my sister move last weekend, and I wasn't even uncomfortable, but just the motion, for guys that are as big as me, when just the motion of walking is enough friction to give you, and I really could have used some Nux, so I might even just have to go in and invest, or maybe when Steve's not looking, I'll steal this can, but I can't. No, but I love the way that it's not wet either. It's so awesome how when it hits your skin, there's not like this wetness that you get from like
feels
Axe.
Like it's like when you just sweated like crazy outside and you've been running around all day and you finally walk into the house,
and it's just almost like that layer of
coolness. And you're like, I'm alive.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You feel it in the face and you get that cool water in you.
Yeah,
that's kind of what it feels like.
I love it. And
on your body.
And I will say this, Miro, the smell is amazing on this Zeus. I know that there is an unscented version of this, but I'm gonna go with the Zeus every single day. I love the way it smells. I don't know, maybe Steve and I and Nick all have a problem with pinpointing what it smells like exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that.
Yeah.
Damn, Steve Wiley himself.
What's up, Steve?
I wanted to actually ask Miro while we have him on the spot.
Yeah.
What do you think the Zeus?
Give it another spray.
Like?
Yeah.
What does it smell like to you?
We're actually going to do a live test of the spray on the show. I am going to do some pit action here.
Oh, there he is, bringing out the guns.
Yes, sir.
There you go. You don't even need to spray that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I just
I
wanted to get that refresher.
Yeah.
Again.
Extra refresh now.
Ooh.
Some kind of raspberry.
Yeah, it's like it smells like cologne almost, like a really expensive cologne, but it's not overpowering. It's like almost perfect. Just a couple spritzes. And it's perfect.
If I smell this on someone, I'd be like,
"What's up, bro?" Yeah,
cool.
Good for you.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I love it.
A lot of those things smell like deodorant, though. It doesn't smell like deodorant at all.
No, it's more of a cologne-y smell. So you could see many uses for this. I don't want to go into detail.
I say this all the time during our ad. To me, when I think like a spray, I think of like Axe body spray when you walk into like an LA Fitness and there's just like 18 different, scents of Axe body spray. And it's just like, ugh. You don't want that. Yeah. This is like the complete opposite of that. But I just had to get that in, Steve. I'm sorry. I know that we went a little off topic, but I needed to get that in.
No, it's good stuff. I mean, it's something when you talk about a product, but then it's different when you actually have it. And
that's why I was grateful when Nux Nick sent this to us because we got the full effect of Nux. So
honestly, I can't wait for the underwear though. That's what I'm waiting for.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I've already milked as much swag as I can out of Nux Nick. I know he's getting us a shirt.
The shirt's
yeah. So I think
I didn't get my shirt yet.
Yeah, no,
what is this?
we There you go, Steve. Get the swag out to the whole network.
Still feels good.
Yeah, I love it. And guys, just a little preview. Later on in the show, we're going to be talking UFC 241. That segment is going to be sponsored by Nux 3-in-1 refresher spray. So I guess we're not off topic after all, but I do want to talk.
It's one of those things where you could just go into the Sox for days.
Yeah, exactly. We could, I want to go a little bit more specific though. What is your expectation of this team next year?
Honestly, it's playoffs or bust for me.
Yeah.
I'm at the point where that's it. It's enough of the excuses. The rebuild was supposed to be over by 2019.
Yeah. I think 2020 was like the popular thing of saying,
and some are saying it might be 2021 now.
No.
If you really look back at it, the rebuild's been like 7 years. Yeah, if you really look back at it, I mean, there were moments they were rebuilding once before and before, and I swear, if so many pieces, they have to fall into place.
Yeah,
but they have to complement them, and everything's got it's a domino effect, right?
Yeah,
they need to get some key offseason additions.
Yeah,
no more. The one that comes to mind, Adam LaRoche.
No, Adam LaRoche.
Adam Dunn.
My God.
You can't have, who was the third baseman? Kevin.
Not the guy from Boston. You talking about the guy from Boston?
The guy from Tampa. He used to be in Tampa Bay. You know what I'm talking, right?
Not Euclid. Not Kevin.
I actually like Euclid.
I like Euclid too. We got him in a trade.
That was good. But it gets to the point where enough is enough. Like we can't.
You're talking about Todd Frazier?
He was decent.
I liked him too. I mean, here's the thing though. I like what you said because people thought the rebuild started like 2.5, 3 years ago. The rebuild really started 5 or 6 years ago. It took us almost 2 years to unload our players and get prospects.
And think about it, Moncada and Giolito, before you know it, they're not going to be on the team anymore because if they keep crushing it, they're leaving.
Yeah,
and I think they only have 4 or 5 years, 4 years, I think.
Yeah, you'll have control.
I think you only have
more control.
More years.
Yeah, more control of Giolito than Moncada because Moncada's clock started when he was with Boston. Technically,
I think Giolito started with Washington too.
Oh yeah, but we ended up getting. I want to say we'll check it out, but I want to say either Moncada has 1 year or it's the same. But here's the thing,
either way, there's only a limited amount of years.
Yeah, no, you hit it on the head because of Giolito. I mean, that guy's going to ask for some paper after this.
Okay. Both of them, yeah. And I think with Moncada, I think, luckily he's panning out because he could really be. He is I think at one point he was
a top prospect. 10, yeah.
No, I think even a top 10 hitter.
Year. That's why they moved him to the cleanup spot because he was really killing it.
He's raking.
Yeah, he was raking.
And if you don't take advantage of this,
it's
going to be so sad.
Yeah.
And they need to get to that 90 win marker next year. They have to 88, 90 wins, and they got to make the playoffs. Like that's it. All these prospects that are coming up, Luis Robert, Madrigal, Kopech officially again, Cease officially getting more into it.
Yeah.
Eloy getting more into it. Who's next? You got the Dane Dunning, hopefully.
Dane Dunnings, and hopefully
you got those few closers.
Hopefully, like Zach Collins. It would really be nice to see this.
And hopefully, you get one of these other lesser guys too. Maybe someone could come in and
surprise you. Yeah, for sure.
You got a couple, but they kind of drop off after the 5. I think it's Robert, Madrigal, Kopech, Cease, and Vaughn.
And Dane Dunning did have the injury this year, but he's another guy that's on there. I know Dylan Cease, to a certain extent, people have sort of forgotten about him because he's up right now. But this guy's still a prospect. He needs. I think I'm really happy they brought him up because I'm hoping for a Giolito-like improvement, not to that astronomical level, but I would really like to see him come in and solidify himself as a solid number 4 starter.
But this means they need to get at least 2-3 good offseason sides.
For sure. You're going to need 2 outfielders minimum, maybe even
if
3.
Robert and Eloy come in,
so
you need a solid right fielder.
Yeah.
And I still think I
like Lurie, but I want to see Lurie in more of a utility role than he is right now. Everyday center fielder for him.
For utility, he's awesome.
Yeah, for him, he can play pretty much any.
He's been a 2.5 or 2. WAR player.
WAR player. He's played shortstop.
Crazy.
He's played second base. He's played every outfield position.
Get rid of Yolmer. I know he's great. I know he has fun and it's great, but it comes to the point where you're batting 300.
Yeah. Another thing about Yolmer is his bat has been so bad this year, and his defense, which is usually his strong point, it's not as good either. So, and Abreu, you're going to have to bring him back. So you're going to have to commit some money to Abreu.
I really want Grandal. I really think,
I would
I wish they I don't know what they were thinking this year.
I
for
think
that
McCann,
money that they gave him.
Yeah. I think McCann, though, to me, was a good signing, but you can't bank on that guy next year.
And he's only around for one more year.
One more year, yeah. And
if he crushes it again,
you don't want to give him.
He might price himself out. Who knows?
And listen, I like McCann. He made a name for himself in the locker room for the Tigers, and he was really highly touted. But for some reason, when they changed managers, they just thought, okay, we'll be better off just letting him go. And the White Sox picked him up, very underrated. I think a lot of people were thinking, oh, he'll be the backup to Wellington, and thankfully for us, McCann has panned out. I think a lot of that, like he's hit 2 grand slams this week.
Within 3 days.
Within 3 days. So the guy's bat has been much better. He's been better behind the plate to a certain extent. He's not the best game manager, but he's not going to let balls go by him a lot. He's decent framer for a guy,
and he's one of the best at throwing runners out.
Yeah, very good arm.
I think last year he was #1 in the whole league.
Yeah, and percentage, and here's the thing: the White Sox. My expectations for them next year are exactly where you're at right now. I think they have to have that expectation now, especially after this team has taken a step up this year. I think, expectation, like, for example, a lot of people are calling for Rick Renteria's head right now, and a lot of those people don't.
Hans head, Williams head.
And
Reinsdorf,
yeah, even like Reinsdorf to a certain extent, he's got to really step up this year.
So I got a question for you, though.
Yeah, please.
Would you think this is possible under this management group? Do you think we will ever see them compete ever again? For more than 1 year.
Yeah.
With who's at helm right now.
So here's the thing, Miro. I think to a certain extent, it would almost be, you'd almost have to purposely mess this up with the type of pieces that you have. Because here's the thing, right? This team, all they wanted 3 years ago was an opportunity to get a farm system to really build themselves back up. And I was encouraged this year that our name was in the Manny Machado stuff. We were also in on Bryce Harper. I mean, people don't want to believe it.
It was such a tease, though.
It was a tease. It wasn't. But here's the silver lining of that, right? The silver lining is the team did look at each other and go, we've got a small window. We've got to capitalize on this. I haven't taken a look at the free agents next year quite yet, but I know Anthony Rendon is on that list. I'd like to see them go out and make a splash like that. It'd be really nice. Maybe move Moncada back to second. I know he's been good at third, but even bringing in Rendon and leaving Moncada at third, go out and make a splash. Get yourself 1 or 2 really reliable bats, and then another bullpen arm and another starter, I think is really necessary, because I like Ronaldo Lopez. I think he's gonna show up.
You still think he stays?
I think so. I think they've seen the type of progression in him that they will, I think, assume that he's going to be more consistent. His problem right now is just that he can't get out of innings at some points. He had that game against the Tigers where he struck out 13 guys, and I was watching that with my buddies. It just so happened. He was
throwing heat.
Yeah, and he
could hit 100.
He can hit 100, and not only that, his control was so good. He wasn't putting anything too far into the strike zone. Everything was on the fringes, and guys couldn't really guess what's coming off of his hand. So to me, I think they look at Giolito. I don't think Rodon is a
he's not his last year, right?
It's his last year, and I mean, Mira, how can you look at this guy and go, he's a top of the rotation guy? Now you can't. He's had so many
got
issues.
Injured every single year.
Every single year, and that was also, and people also before they drafted him, people looked at the White Sox and go, this guy's got injury problems. So it's not like this is new to him.
Luckily, I mean, the thing is though, the other guys that if you go back to that draft, if you look back at the other 2 guys, I think that went in front of him because he was a 3rd pick, right?
He was a 3rd pick, yeah.
they're like not even in the league anymore. I think.
See,
right? Wasn't it Brady Eichen was one of
you know
them?
that would be tough. I know he was considered a top 2 or 3 pitcher that year, and I think the White Sox did a good job of bringing him in. But you almost in baseball, man. It's like a sport where you almost have to cut your losses. You know what I'm saying? You can't hang around too long with some of these guys.
So let's just say it's not Rodon.
Yeah.
So what is it?
Well, here's what I would like to see. I would like to see them go out and get a veteran pitcher.
We're talking Garrett Cole. Or
I'm talking. Yeah, I don't want to see a 4 or 5 slot guy. I want to see a 1 or 2 slot type.
So there's only like
here.
3 pitchers.
Yeah,
like
but here's the thing though. People underestimate the White Sox because they don't really understand the financial situation. Meaning other teams, other fans. You know, the White Sox right now have a lot of money to spend. Believe it or not, I think a lot of people.
Do they though? Will they spend it? Because technically they should have built up such a huge cushion over these last few years.
Yeah, but here's the thing about that though. I don't think they go into rebuild mode without expecting that they're going to have to make a big splash or two later. And I think, again, I was encouraged to see them be so invested in Manny Machado that I think next year, again, I know Rendon is one that just kind of popped in my head, but...
Yeah, there's going to be everybody after.
Yeah, that. Oh yeah, and I know he wants to stay with the Nationals from what I hear, but the big thing for me right now is the window is closing. It's a little bit weird because our window...
It's starting, but technically on the back end, you do have 4 years to really start going.
And you have to at this point recognize the clock is ticking. You know what I'm saying? Meaning, you're not going to be able to go through next year and say we can be an 82 win team. And no, you can't because
it's got to be 88 to 90 wins.
88 to 90 wins minimum, and it's not out of the realm of possibility either. You can go out there and get 1 or 2 guys. Like listen, you're not going to get an ace type guy next year, I don't think. Garrett Cole is interesting, but to me, it would be the reason why I want to go into more of the veteran thing is because I want somebody around Ronaldo. I want somebody around Giolito.
So you want a Bumgarner?
I don't mind. I'm not me and Nick are both not very big fans of him because he's a little bit of a red ass and just I don't necessarily like it because this team is a half.
He is a lefty
team.
Though.
He is a lefty.
He hasn't been what he used to be.
No, certainly not. And
but he's a workhorse.
He's a workhorse and he's a veteran. I mean, is exactly what I was talking about. But to a certain extent, from what I'm looking at, okay, where can you slot Giolito next year? I think it's pretty safe to say he can be a 1 or 2 type guy.
He's handling it this year?
He's handling it this year. I think Ronaldo...
That's what's so important this year is that he's handling it.
Yeah, and that's
the
bright spot.
They said he had not mental problems, that games would get to his head, he'd fall apart, he'd collapse. But it seems like he's doing pretty well right now, and it's encouraging.
Last year, it used to be like he gave up a run in the first, and then it was like he was a different pitcher. This year, he is so much more, and mentally is a great way to put it because he's been so much stronger.
It's the game of baseball. That's what it is.
Absolutely. And dude, when you're facing, listen, the AL... You have to have a certain mentality as an AL pitcher. You got to go out there with the mentality that I'm going to get this guy out. It can't be...
You got to strike him out.
Yeah. It can't be, hey, I'm going to go out there and try and put some pitches and get him in play. You've got to get guys out. And I think his mentality this year has changed. And they added a few pitches for him, and it's really helped in spots. And he's throwing more breaking stuff this year, which is really helping because teams were jumping on his fastball last year. So, I think expectations
change-up
too. Yeah, great. Absolutely. But I think right now you've got 3 or 4 pretty decent arms right now.
So who are we talking?
I'm talking Giolito and Ronaldo towards the top, right?
I still slot Ronaldo as the 5 guy.
Oh, really?
I think that's all we're gonna get.
See, that would be a good. Here's the thing.
I think that's got to be our floor.
Sure. But here's the thing.
If we're looking at him as a number 2, I'm worried.
I think his ceiling is probably towards a 3 right now. I don't think his ceiling is like a 2 or 1. But here's what I'm thinking. Okay. If you can get Giolito in and get another 2 or 3 slot guy,
so AKA,
let's say it
Cole's
might be
not going to happen, but
no, Cole's not going to happen.
Say like an Odorizzi or Wheeler.
I like Wheeler. I like Wheeler a lot. I think it said a lot about what the Mets the Mets keeping him, I think it said a lot about him because he's basically going to walk this, if they're not able to figure something out.
They got such a good staff right now.
I know. And the Stroman trade, I mean, me and Nick, we ripped on them a little bit because, that was a little bit out of left field. But next thing you know,
for that deal, how do you not take that?
Yeah, and me and Nick had a big blow. I mean, I still get messages about this, about me and Nick and his collusion, And I love Nick, and he's passionate about his team. I still, stick with what I say. I don't think there was any collusion involved. But yeah, when you look at that trade, Toronto took, 2 pretty mediocre prospects and didn't really, I think it was.
Dude, it was thrown around that you're gonna have to give up like a top 20, 30 prospects.
And that was Nick's point. Nick's point was, well, they were asking the Yankees for X, Y, and Z. And a lot of that has to do with who you're trading with, right? Like, I don't want to trade this guy into the division if I don't have to. I'd much rather let this guy, get out. Yeah. Now, do you take lesser prospects for this? That just goes to show who's a good and bad GM. And that's what I said during the conversation. If you're a bad GM, you would probably look and go, well, we'll take less value to screw the Yankees. That happens in this league.
It does, though. Yeah, no, yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, as bad as it is, there's always going to be some politics. There's always going to be
and it doesn't have to be
somebody else
screw the
that
Yankees.
Controls the. There's always going to be somebody else. I mean,
absolutely.
It's like with everything we do in life,
and
not just sports.
Like let's say the White Sox, right? If they can get another really consistent arm. Meaning,
so who's the other ones? So we got Raylo, Giolito, sign someone,
and then I'm thinking right now that those last 2 spots should go to either Kopech, Cease, or Dunning. Now Dunning's really far behind right now. It's going to be tough. We may have to sign another arm for that.
And Kopech, we're relying that he's going to be okay.
And you don't know that. Yeah, and we don't know if Cease going to take that type of...
And technically, Rodon will be there for a little bit.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. He's actually probably, he'd probably miss a couple of weeks to start the season.
I think they're saying by May,
right?
April, May.
Which, okay, you're not looking too bad depth-wise there, but you do... we'd probably agree on this. You do need to go out and get 2 arms because you don't know... Like, and I'm not talking... I like Ivan Nova. I think he's been okay for the younger guys. He's a good locker room veteran, but to me, that's not a guy you want to latch on to next year.
I'm a little scared that just based on what they've been doing, that's what they're going to do. They're going to be like, hey, guys, Ivan Nova's crushed it the rest of the year.
That's going to be tough,
man. Brought him back in a 2-year deal for $30 million.
Man.
I just so could see it happening.
Yeah, you can't go value hunting.
The White Sox way.
Yeah, you can't go value hunting. That would be
we're
terrible.
Comfortable with him. We cracked him. He's been great to Raylo because he's been teaching Raylo. That's what they say he's doing.
For sure, yeah.
And they're going to go the James Shield, locker room.
Oh, my God, yeah. No,
and... So see it. And it kills me.
It does. The locker room presence thing is a little bit, I cringe a little bit when I say it myself because it is a little bit overblown about, well, this guy's a locker room presence. And, they said the same thing about Adam Eaton. And, we saw how that worked out with him and Todd Frazier, even after basically Todd Frazier saying this dude's like a terrible teammate. Nobody wants to play with this guy. Yeah. And let's not forget, thank you to the Nationals because, we wouldn't have Giolito or Ronaldo Lopez if we didn't.
Dunning.
Or Dane Dunning for the Eaton.
Those trades are looking decent right now.
I know Adam Eaton, he's been okay for the Nationals, but he's definitely not one. They didn't win that trade, not even close. And then, our arms right now are suspect. We definitely need another solid arm.
Yeah.
And I think you could probably, you can't go bargain hunting with the second one. I think you need to find another. Like, I love what the Rays did with, like, a Charlie Morton. Mm-hmm. A guy that came from a World Series winner. He's a little bit up there in age, but he had a career year, and they jumped on it, and he's having another really solid season this year. So I would like that. People weren't really hyping up Morton much mid last season. Now he's looking like a guy that was a really good.
But what do you think though about Hahn? He's telling us this money will be spent.
Right,
it will be spent.
Yeah,
and like. All the money they saved, their payroll's down at what, 80, 90 mil now?
Yeah,
they used to be at 130, 140, 150. Mm-hmm. So let's just put the math together really quick. Let's just say they're saving 50 mil a year now.
Sure.
40. Let's be more conservative. 40 mil a year. Good 3 years now straight. That's 120 mil extra they saved on top of like the regular investments they would make. who's to say they're not just putting that money back to all the investors and back just paying it all out and then just playing it like it's a new year going forward?
That's a good point.
Technically, I mean, they're saying they're going to spend this money. I want to see a big splash.
Right.
I want to see a big splash.
I do too.
And I'm not going to fully start spending money again on the Sox until I see that big splash.
Yeah.
Because, it comes, if they don't care about us, then, then we'll see that. But I'm still passionate about them, and I will continue to be. But I want to see that big splash. I need to see something.
Yeah, and I think the attendance has taken a little bit of an uptick this year. It hasn't gone that far up, but I think people are a little bit more excited about the Sox than they used to be. But to a certain extent, they've got to understand that fans aren't going to spend money on this team to middle.
How often do you go to games?
So since I worked for them, I've probably gone to maybe on average 3 games a year.
I've dropped considerably.
Me too.
Especially right now because of what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm legit revolting. As much as I love the team and I'm a diehard, I'm revolting until they make a change.
Yeah, and that's, to me, man, that's very understandable in my opinion, because when you're looking at a team that's middling, it's hard to really get, you can only go so long holding on to these hope for the prospects. A year ago it was, man, I can't wait to see Moncada. Man, I can't wait to, and we're losing that luster a little bit, right? You've only got a couple, like Luis Robert to me.
After the top 5, it drops down.
It drops considerably, and we've had bad luck too. We've had we talked about Jake Berger.
Yeah, who's to say these guys even work out?
Exactly. So, and I'm looking at, here's the thing, okay? I see that right now you've got, Cole Hamels. I didn't know this, but Steven Strasburg has a player option next year. So, he's 31 now. People still remember this guy as like this wonderkind. He's 31. So,
it seems like he's been around
for so long.
I remember like in high school and damn.
And then you got Darvish, who's got a, I'm not a huge fan of him.
Do we really want to
recycle?
Take the baggage from the north side?
No, I'm totally okay on that.
Hamels?
But JD Martinez has a player option this year. I know the Boston things haven't gone really well in Boston, but I would suspect he'd probably end up staying there. Anthony Rendon, we talked about, is a guy whose market value is really high right now. An interesting one that I just saw, Ryu from the Dodgers. He's an interesting one. I'd like to see that one. I think that's, even if you have to overspend a little bit on that one, I don't mind because the guy's so consistent. He's having a really great year this year, and he's an all-star, but I think people forget that this guy's been around for a little while and he's been a part of some really good teams. So that would be interesting. Listen, I like Colomé, but if you're going to tell me that maybe I can get another arm in the rotation for Colomé, I do that in a second. I think Bummer has closer stuff to me.
Yeah, he's been
amazing.
Awesome,
and another one of these guys that they recycled, and next thing you know, boom, he's got almost closer stuff. You got another really great lefty in Jace Fry. They found a couple of guys in the bullpen. Evan Marshall was one of them this year. So, bullpen isn't looking too bad, but I wouldn't mind. Let's make
Jimmy Cordero, dude's throwing heat.
Yep,
I mean,
absolutely.
We'll see. He threw up a stinker the last day. We'll see what happens.
Marcell Ozuna is a perfect example of what this team could use right now. Right field, solid bat, a guy who's a veteran. Hasn't been a part of a really,
I guess the part that scares me, and it's
money.
like name the last big shot free agent they brought in ever.
It's really,
besides Robert and Abreu,
you can't even really count international signings because
they committed to him from
and
being younger.
Listen, props to them on the Abreu finding, props to them on the Robert finding. A lot of people, Robert came out of left field for a lot of people, and the White Sox committed a lot of money to him up front, and people were like, what is this guy going to do? He's done nothing but tear up low A baseball, and then this year he's been in the Double A and Triple A. Yeah, he had like a grand slam in like he was like 4 for 5 with a grand slam in his first
7
game.
RBIs
Yeah, insane. So that would be a really nice guy to slot into center field next year and say, okay, now we've got Eloy and Robert. You know, maybe you can even bring
Moncada and Anderson.
Anderson. Let's keep Abreu. Maybe Madrigal will be ready by midseason next year. And then again, you're talking about Zach Collins and James McCann. So, you know, man, the bats aren't looking too bad right now. I think we've got I'm 100% in agreement with you. We need to see this aggressive approach by the front office this year.
Yeah, we need a big shot hitter and a big shot pitcher.
Yeah, and I want to see them. You know, I think a lot of people are so critical of their team when they go out and spend a lot of money on a guy that they don't necessarily know or like too much. Mm-hmm. I just want to see them go out and commit and say, you know what, we believe in X guy and Y guy, and we're going to give them the money because we do believe in them,
and
right?
we believe in this team.
This team, exactly.
Most importantly, in this team that we want them to win, that we want you fans to have something to look forward to and be able to give all these years and time and sweats and tears and energy into being able to celebrate something for once. And, you know, I could go into this for days.
Me too. They have to protect their investment too, Miro, because they haven't done a ton over the last couple of years, and now they're seeing sort of some of that revenue. I mean, I can tell you this, man. I used to work for the White Sox between 2011 and 2014, and if you saw 20,000 people in the ballpark, you were ecstatic. You were like, my God, I can't believe. I mean, I'm telling you that I've been a part of some games where they've said that there was like 6,000 people there. There was probably maybe like 2,000. I've been a part of some really, really bad attendance years. So this year, we talked about it, a little bit of an uptick, not too much, not substantial enough where they're going to start to see money out of it. They need to make sure that they secure this investment next year, because they're not going to make any money if they don't really see an uptick in attendance. And because they're going to be upping the payroll, they need to figure a way out to even that.
Supposedly, I'm hearing that they don't care as much about the attendance, like they do and they don't,
because they don't make a ton of money.
They make all their money off of TV.
Exactly.
They got such crazy TV deals, and which is out of this world for baseball. By the way, I don't know how, but they get so much money every year from the TV deals and from like just all the tax breaks they get and stuff.
And
it's a win-win. It's such a win-win no matter what.
Absolutely, yeah. And people forget Reinsdorf owns the Bulls too, so he's got Bulls money coming in. The Bulls are sort of in a similar position where this year they're hoping to take a step up, and that would be really good for the White Sox, coincidentally, if the Bulls took a step up.
Which is a whole nother story. Like,
I know.
You get into the Bulls and you're like, damn. Like,
I know.
What's been going on here?
You know, and the Bulls are a perfect example and almost a good parallel to the White Sox, because they tore it apart 2 years too late too. You know, it seems like the White Sox were like a year or two late from tearing it down, and the Bulls were too. They stuck onto this pipe dream of Jimmy Butler and Dwayne Wade, and it backfired big time. And next thing you know, Jimmy Butler's value has gone down.
Do you think they should have traded Butler a year earlier?
Yeah. I think Butler was a guy who he was the highest value on your team. And I think just from a GM, in your GM mind, you have to look at what I'm working with. And okay, we know that Butler is a good player, but what we did with the whole Dwayne Wade thing was, again, a pipe dream.
That was just to keep seats in the
keep butts in the seats.
But
and
what Butter do you think they could have gotten? I feel like they got a pretty decent
the deal turned out pretty good for them. I will say this: I like Levine, I like Markkanen, and I think Chris Dunn, even if they get rid of him this year, wouldn't be too much of a big deal
at this point. Right?
But my thing is not necessarily who they got; it's when they did it. Because the Bulls,
that they still could have maybe tore it up earlier, got a better pick earlier, and now been a year ahead.
Better prospects and been a year, because last year the team didn't look like a team that was a year away. If that makes sense.
The team looked like they're 10 years, 5 years away.
So, but now, okay, granted, the moves that I have given them a lot of credit for the moves they made over the offseason, because they're committing to what they've done, right? They went out and they got glue guys. They didn't make a ton of big splashes. I know Thaddeus Young is a little bit up there.
Do you really think this team has any shot against these big teams?
The East is real. No.
Somebody's
not even close. Not even close. No. But here's where your hope lies, okay, Miro? you want your team to make the playoffs, right? That's the first step. You saw it with the Brooklyn Nets this year. They were a terrible team the year before. This year, they make the playoffs, and everybody looks around and goes, man, the Nets are something. They go out and get Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving as a result of that. The Bulls have a chance to do that this year, too, where they surprise people, sneak in as a 6, 7, 8 seed, and hopefully the year after, people won't, because nobody wants to play in Chicago. No free agents want to play in
I'm just
Chicago.
going back to the time. I'm thinking of like the D Rose age, and we were 6th, 7th, 8th seed every single year.
Yep.
And nobody still came here.
Yeah, and I will say this
We
about
were supposed to get Wade. Wade back in the day. We were supposed to get LeBron back in the day. Melo.
I love that you just brought that up because
that just brings me back.
I love that you just brought that up because and I say this almost too much, and people, I might have said this on the show at least like 3 or 4 times already. I still remember the time when Kobe was on the block. And the Bulls were in
but
it.
they didn't want to give up Luol Deng.
You know, I'm sorry, Steve, and whoever. Luol Deng, guys. We were looking at
hurts. That hurt my
I'm
ears.
so sorry. We looked at each other and we went, I don't know. I don't know if we should trade for Kobe because
he was. How old was he? I mean, he was. He was still like early 30s.
Or he was late 20s, I think, at the time. But
it might have been like 30.
It might have been 30-ish. But at the same time,
it was Kobe.
It was Kobe Bryant. And the other two players that you were going to give up weren't that.
Who cares?
Yeah, it
I would have
didn't
given up the
matter.
whole team and had Kobe and your salary cap.
Exactly.
And then picked up a few free agents. I don't care.
The absolute worst part about this whole situation was that Kobe came out years later and said, yeah, I almost went to the Bulls. And if they would have pulled that off, I would have went. And I think every Bulls fan, their heart just sank to their stomach because
there's so many would haves, could have, should have. It's like the theme of Chicago.
Yeah, LeBron and D Wade both came out and said, we gave a hard look to the Bulls, and they were short, but they were only short because Pat Riley was willing to do so much more for them in Miami than the Bulls were willing to do for them in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I understand that, but when you see that you're missing by this much on some of these generational talents,
but it's so many times, and it seems to be a theme with the two organizations run by the same
ownership,
same ownership. At the end of the day, it makes you wonder and makes you think, like, where is the light at the end of the tunnel?
No, I totally agree, dude. Miro, me and you could talk about this stuff for probably 8 hours,
right?
No joke.
And it's just like it makes you think, like, at least there's some teams in Chicago that take advantage of it.
Absolutely,
you got the Cubs, you got the Bears. I mean, enough said. Like they're well on their way. They're doing the right things.
And the Bears are a pretty good example of how patience can pay off sometimes, right? The Bears were really bad.
They wiped out everything
and brought in a new coach, and people forget that when they hired Nagy too, everyone looked around and went, "Who?" Because he was like a quarterbacks coach for the Chiefs, and everyone looked around and go, who the hell is Matt Nagy? Yeah. I think there was a couple other guys that I was really big on. And then when Nagy came in and you started to see what Nagy represented, which is this sort of next level, next generation football, lots of plays on offense, being creative, relying on your defense and your kicking. And granted, we didn't have kicking last year, but people But people forget we lost 2 games during the regular season because of our kicking, and we lost the playoffs because of our kicking.
Off topic, do you feel really quick that they'll bring in another kicker before the
No, because I've been watching the preseason games, and they got this guy Eddie Pinheiro. He's a guy who's he's a generational type guy with a big leg, but he just never really panned out. And
has he been around?
He's hasn't been around. No, he's a recent graduate from Florida, and he's a big guy in Florida. He set a couple kicking records for them, and they had another guy. I believe his name is Elliot Fry.
He's been around. He's been Bengals.
And Fry, he's missed a couple of really clutch kicks over the preseason. So I think Pinheiro's going to win. Matt Bryant's out there. He's a vet. I know he's like 40.
I'm pissed they didn't get that guy from the Ravens.
Oh, the Videric or so. But let me tell you though, the Vikings gave up almost, I think, a 5th and a conditional 4th round, I think. So that's a lot to give up for a kicker.
But you know what? At the end of the day,
if you feel like you're missing a link,
the Bears could have been in the next game of the playoffs.
Yeah, which would be New Orleans and
if it was for the kicker. So
Yeah.
sometimes maybe it's worth it.
And that's why I'm saying the patience with the Bears has paid off to a certain extent. And I think to wrap this up in a bow, I think the White Sox, we have to show patience, but I think we have to see the type of offseason that the Bears had with Allen Robinson, and they went out and really Gabriel, and then they went out on,
and then the cherry on top,
Khalil Mack. I mean, listen, we gave up a lot for Khalil Mack, but we saw the return on investment on that so soon.
I mean, you see, I'm just hoping that this is it, like that this is that year.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden the White Sox go like, we've been messing with you guys this whole time.
Yeah.
We just been cooking this thing up. We've been really, it's like that wine, right? They've been aging that wine, that cheese, and this year they're just gonna go crazy and get Garrett Cole, get Mizuna, you name it.
And let me say, Garrett Cole, man, would be a really nice addition to this team. Because he gives us what we talked about earlier. Workhorse, innings eater, veteran guy.
Strikes out more than anybody out there.
And people were worried about him transitioning to the AL. He's done fine in the AL.
Even better.
So to me, Garrett Cole is a guy we should probably have on our wish list because he solidifies the top part of that rotation so well when you can put him next to Giolito. And at this point, if one guy can make that step up to be a third or fourth starter, we might be in for something here because the offense needs one or two pieces in my mind. They've got a good utility guys. Like Lurie Garcia is a guy I hope sticks around, and I hope he's there with the team when they're good because he can play so many different roles.
I like him.
And I think
need some nifty guys like that.
Yeah, and he's played a great center field this year. People forget he wasn't a natural center fielder, and he's a guy who's played a damn good center field this year. So that's worth mentioning. Miro, I'm gonna go ahead and get our MMA segment going.
You kicking me off?
I'm
man?
not kicking you out. I don't know if you mind or Steve minds.
Just because Black's not here,
I know,
doesn't mean you got to kick me off.
You
already.
ate him, and we had to.
Improvise. You guys probably won't ever see him again. I'm sorry.
No,
but I'm having so much fun here. I'm just getting started, man.
I'm gonna actually, Steve. I don't
do
know
this
if you're
for a living.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you're
man.
around, Steve, but I'm gonna.
Steve's gone.
He's gone. Okay, I'm gonna request Miro for us as many times as we can when Nick's not around or when I'm not around because this was awesome and we flew through that one. So we need to get to UFC 241, but before we do, guys, I do want to talk about some MMA, but I also want to let you guys know about what we just talked about, Nux 3-in-1 refresher spray. Everyone knows it by now. We do nothing but talk about it on this show because we love it that much. And as you guys can see from the earlier segment, Miro tried it. He loves it.
I need to get the other armpit in right now.
Yeah,
it feels awkward because this one's
you have
so
one.
good.
Might as well get both in. Yeah,
awkward.
Cake that one up because guys, Nux 3-in-1 refresher spray is everything dudes need on a hot day. But even, man, there's guys like me, man, it doesn't even have to be hot. I sweat bullets when it's not hot. Steve, I was giving him grief like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
He's the worst. He's the worst.
No, he honestly, Steve's my man because it was like damn near 65 degrees in here. I'm like, Steve, it's so hot. I'm dying. And he's like, dude, I don't know what to do for you. Sorry, man. No, but we've got guys who like me who sweat either way, guys. So when you're running around on a hot and sweaty day, guys, please think about it. You don't want to go home and take a shower. You don't really have a change of clothes. You're not going to go home just for that. So what do? Keep one of these things really close by. It's Nux 3-in-1 refresher spray, guys. We know what it feels like when when you're chafing, itching, stinking. I'm glad we mentioned the undercarriage earlier. It's a sticking point for a lot of us dudes,
it is.
And in the pun intended on that one as well. So again, guys, we don't like it when it's hot, just specifically for that area. And I think we have the solution to that, guys. It's Nux 3-in-1 refresher spray. No more baby powder. No more Axe body spray, please, guys. We don't want to see that anymore. The solution is Nux 3-in-1 refresher spray, guys, made to replace all the other halfway solutions on the market. Nux is a moisture absorbing spray that is designed specifically for guys, especially what we call the undercarriage. And I'll just say, you're nuts, guys. It sucks and it's not convenient and it's not PC, but I'm gonna say it sucks walking around with nuts that are nasty, sweaty, and you want to get rid of that, guys. We talked about Nux 3-in-1 Refresher Spray. It's for your armpits, not just for your undercarriage, guys. Armpits, on top of your clothing, on top of your sports pads, athletic equipment, boxing, MMA gloves, anything along those lines, helmets, pretty much anything that can get nasty and sweaty during activity, guys. This got you covered. Nux 3-in-1 Refresher Spray has no aluminum ingredients. It is tested to be safe and effective all over the body, guys. So when it comes scented in the Zeus scent, which again, I'm a thumbs up on the Zeus scent. I love it. There is also unscented. If you're that type of guy, we've got unscented for you as well. So again, check out Nux 3-in-1 Refresher Spray, guys. It's mynux.com. That's myKNUCKS.com.
Hey, I wanted to jump in real quick because
I
was just on the phone with Nick the other day here, and what he really wants people to do, obviously go to the website and all that, but what he really wants you to do is he wants you to join the community. It's the Nux community on Facebook, it's an active community. So if you go to mynux.com, you can kind of or just look them up on Facebook.
It's hashtag no more sweaty balls.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Hashtag no more
Yes,
sweaty
sir.
balls. So yeah, check them out. Join the community. And there's a lot of interesting information in there and cool stuff.
I'll firsthand, I'm in it. I'm constantly monitoring it every day. A lot of interesting information. A lot of, things that will make you think.
I'm joining right away. And Steve, do us a favor here, buddy, and give us a little bit of we'll blast that out from our page later on today, so that everybody that's listening, guys, do us a favor, join the Nux community, and join the Facebook page. But again, mynux.com is the website, guys. myKNUCKS.com. Hey,
all right,
Miro,
it's been a pleasure, man.
It's been amazing.
I know you're kicking me off.
Do you have to leave? Do you have to leave? Maybe we can just get through this UFC segment. I don't know. It would be awkward because I'd just be talking at you.
It'd be you talking, and I'd be like, "Hey, so what's going on next?
Who's this?
What is UFC? What does it stand for?"
I know we got a meetings. We got a meeting here.
Okay. You know what? That's perfect, guys.
Steve Wiley always makes me do these meetings.
Steve, he better be on the clock right now.
Nobody knows what even happens in these meetings.
What's discussed or what's happening.
Meetings.
Hey, Miro, man, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was beautiful meeting you. And we're gonna, Steve. I'm not even joking, man. Anytime we can bring him in the studio, because I need somebody to talk White Sox, please. I need it.
I thought it would be perfect. It's great.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Miro.
It's been a pleasure. Hey, make sure all the listeners, go on iTunes, leave these guys a review. The show is kick-ass. Mack and Black podcast.
Miro, do you want to talk about Pod River real quick?
Please, guys. Yeah, get it in.
Pod River Network. It's a new network that's slowly rising. We're a network that we're connecting other podcasts, and we're coming up with a platform that's here where we could all collaborate and work together and kind of advertise together and help each other out.
Awesome.
So it's being part of a bigger whole. Why podcasting? It's fun. It's awesome, but there's also a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of competitions. It's like when radio first came out.
Yeah.
We're kind of at that point. It's hot. It's sexy. Everybody wants to do it.
Absolutely.
But you get to a point where you want to synergize. You want to connect. You want to help each other out. You're going to grow as you're part of a bigger whole. You're part of a community and a team that loves to help each other out. And that's what Pod River Media Network is.
Beautiful.
It is a community of podcasts. We have the Boss to Boss show. We have the Mack and Black show. And we have others in the works as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm working on one too. I'm working on the Up and Down show with me. It's just
yes,
sir.
Oh no. All right, so I got to switch cameras now.
Okay.
I knew this.
Is the audio still going?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, well, this might be a good time to transition.
Perfect. Wow, that's crazy. He has to leave, so the camera.
Yeah, right. Well, Miro.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure, guys.
Thanks again, brother. I appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
There you are.
Hey guys, it's me. Hey, thank you, Steve. Appreciate that.
On the fly, man.
I know this guy. You would think he's not quick by looking at him, but you would think wrong. You would think 100% wrong because he was flying in and out. Just use your imagination on that, guys. But Thanks for that, Steve. And guys, another big shout out to Miro from Boss to Boss podcast. Guys, go check out Boss to Boss. I'm telling you, they're dropping jewels on there. So you guys want to go ahead and add that to your repertoire of podcasts, and check out the Pod River Network as well. But guys, we're jumping right into it. This segment is brought to you by mynux.com and Nux 3-in-1 Refresher Spray. Guys, it's UFC 241. I'm so pumped up. I want to be like Bruce Buffer right now, because this has, quite frankly, 3 of my favorite cards this whole year on it. And they're all seemingly on the main event. So like I said, guys, it did just start around, I believe, an hour ago, and right now we are still in the early prelims, so we didn't really miss much. There was a couple of fighters from Dana White's looking for a fight in the Tuesday Night Contender Series, but the prelims, you got Manny Bermudez versus Casey Kenny. I know that Bermudez is a undefeated fighter right now, and he looks really damn good. Casey Kenny also looks good. I believe they're both Tuesday night guys, but I'm not exactly sure. And then Christos Giagos, the Spartan, I've never seen him before, but Drakkar Klose is a UFC veteran. He's a guy that he's had a lot of hype behind him, and he's lost and drawn in a couple of fights, and the hype train seemed to have stopped. But I love Drakkar Klose in that fight. Rafael Assunção, old school. He's back in the octagon today or tonight against Corey Sandhagen. I saw a couple of Sandhagen highlights. He's a guy that I think, might be able to catch Assunção slipping. I mean, Assunção right now is 36 years old. I know he's, everyone knows what he was like, in his prime as a bantamweight, but we'll have to see what happens with that one. And then to wrap it up, it's Devontae Smith versus Kama Worthy. I'm not going to waste your time, your guys' time. I don't know anything about either one of those guys. But as we talked about, my God, 3 of my favorite, I would say 3 of my favorite fights of the whole year are on this main event. We're talking about Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa, Bohachina versus the Soldier of God. Both of these guys they're specimens of men. I look at myself in the mirror and I think, you're not the most fit guy. You got a little bit of a belly, you got some fat here or there. But when you look at Yoel Romero and you look at Paulo Costa, it just makes you feel like a garbage human, because both of those guys are just jacked to the gills, and you don't know who's, it's like almost like the unstoppable force versus the immovable object with these guys. So that's going to be a really interesting fight. And then another one, man, Nate Diaz versus Anthony Pettis. These 2 guys, I've said before, Stylebender, Jorge Masvidal, I love Bilal Muhammad. He's another guy that is a Palestinian fighter who I love a lot. But these 2 are right up there. I know Nate Diaz has been one of my favorites of all time. And Anthony Pettis, man, this guy is just, he is amazing with what he can do sometimes. As we know, his nickname is Showtime. But I'm really having a hard time picking a guy for this fight. Nate Diaz, to me, man, he's boxing personified. He's a guy who just, he doesn't hit you with full shots. He's going to hit you with, 30 to 50% power shots in round 1. And then he's going to start to bring it, and really his max that he really goes out for is like 70 to 80%. He's just a guy that's always going to keep going, a guy that's a triathlon guy. He loves biking. He loves doing like crazy marathons and stuff like that. And a dude who's a badass. He's just a badass dude. He will fight you in the streets. He'll fight you in the octagon, and then he'll fight you in the streets after fighting you in the octagon. He's just a badass dude. He went up to it's been a while. It's been about 3 years for Nate Diaz, guys, for those of you who haven't noticed. And he walked into, I don't know what you would even call it. It's the pre-press for them. There was a weigh-in, but there was also like a workout that goes on in the arena. And, Nate Diaz is sparring, and then he does a couple rolling on the ground. And then next thing you know, this guy's lighting up a joint. and he lights up a joint and just starts smoking the joint, and the media is there and all the fans are there, and he just doesn't care. And from what I understand, I think it's a CBD joint, so probably not something that's going to get him in trouble. But just the thought of somebody, a UFC fighter, 2 days before the fight, doing a workout and doing media essentially, and then just whips out a joint and lights it up and just says, I don't really care. And to me, that's a dope sort of attitude to have. So, honestly, I'm having a hard time thinking about picking Nate in this fight. It's been 3 years since he's been in the octagon. Pettis has looked really good his last 2 fights. I mean, that fight against Tony Ferguson was amazing. He had an amazing knockout of Wonder Boy. And this dude looks for real right now. He looks like his best version of himself. He went on a little bit of a skid after being, touted as a guy that's going to be, up there for the belt. So apparently this fight is a couple years in the making. These two guys, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of guys who love Nate Diaz. I don't think there's a lot of guys that Nate Diaz loves. So this fight was interesting enough for Nate to come out of retirement, essentially, because a lot of people thought this guy wasn't going to fight again. And now he comes up and basically has a fight against, one of the toughest, I will say this about Pettis, as far as 170 is concerned, I think that's a perfect weight for him. I think he's going to find a way, I think, in this fight, because it's going to be tough to get showtime to the cards. And I think that's the way that Nate has to win. He's going to have to try and outbox him and basically outscore him. Because it's hard. Nate Diaz doesn't knock people out. He doesn't have a put out, punch or even a kick. He's great on the ground. He's a jiu-jitsu wizard, but I imagine that Anthony Pettis, who he trains at Duke Rufus over in where is that? I think it's Milwaukee. So he's going to be well prepared for that ground attack. It's hard for me to pick. It's hard for me to pick Nate in this fight. I honestly, I hope there's a scenario where both of these guys can win. I've said that before. I don't, obviously there is no scenario where that both of these guys can win. And I don't want to see a draw. So, I'm going to go ahead and pick Pettis in this fight. I think, Nate, man, 3 years is a long time. And if Nate wins, I'm not going to be disappointed. I'm actually probably going to be really excited. I just hope for a good fight, because the last thing you want is, one of these fighters to be affected by this being a one-sided fight, because I want to see Nate again. After this whole McGregor stuff that happened over the week where he was caught on camera, apparently, we've known about this for months and we saw it in the news. It just went away. But there's something about in sports when you know about something, but then the video comes out. And then when the video comes out, it's like 30 times worse than when just that news headline comes out. We saw it with Ray Rice. We saw it with Kareem Hunt. We saw it with just a few other guys in football and even in basketball that, we know they have these incidents, and then the video comes out and it's way worse than what you thought. And that's what happened with Conor. He basically, sucker punched an old man because he didn't want to drink his whiskey and apparently said something along the lines of like, your whiskey sucks, bro. So Conor, if you listen to Dana White, he's not too confident that Conor's going to ever fight again. I hope it's not to that level. I would like to still see him in the octagon, but who knows? The guy's paid enough. He doesn't need to. So we'll see. But I would like to see Nate fight in the trilogy with Conor. That would be my dream fight after this fight. So we'll see how this shakes out. But obviously that's going to be, where I'm at. And then we have the main event, guys. I want to, unfortunately, we do have to wrap up the podcast here. So I'm going to end off with this fight. But it's going to be Stipe versus DC. Obviously, DC in that first fight, he caught Stipe, and Stipe went down, and he put him away. And that's a tough pill to swallow for Stipe. He was a great heavyweight champion. Say what you want about the guy. You want to say that he, flies by the seat of his pants and he's not, too marketable. I disagree with the whole marketing thing. I think he's an amazing story. A guy who comes from immigrant parents. He's a firefighter from Ohio, and, to me, Cleveland, actually. But he's a guy who just, has a great story, and he defended. I think he's the best heavyweight champion of all time because of how many times he defended, the type of talent that he beat. This guy is like a legit heavyweight and a legend in the UFC, and he doesn't get that respect after the DC fight. That could have something to do with DC maybe putting him out so soon, and that was it was a deciding fight. That was like, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. DC was the better man that night. This is a tough one to pick. And it's a tough one to pick because DC may be done after this, guys. He's already said in the past he didn't want to fight after 40. He's been a guy who's been around for a long time. He obviously is an Olympic wrestler. This guy's been in the grind for a long time. And if he loses this fight, he may be a guy who is just looking for maybe a revenge fight against John Jones. But after listening to both of those guys this week, and maybe it has something to do with them hating each other, or maybe DC's trying to leverage himself in a better way, but he's basically saying, well, I hold the cards now and I don't want to do John Jones. So, I think you can probably make an argument that that's, a little bit of a bitch move, excuse my language. Because, you've lost twice to this guy. Basically your UFC stint is pretty much flawless. Otherwise, if basically you take the John Jones fights out of the equation, you're looking at being one of the most accomplished UFC fighters. And I mean, this guy started in Strikeforce and other organizations, and he's, like I said, been at it for a while. And I know he turned 40 earlier this year, and if he loses this fight, it's almost like why would you keep going? So I don't have a confident pick in this fight, to be quite honest. I think that Stipe right now has been off for a while. And Stipe is a good example of a guy who stuck to his guns. He could have came out and did a couple feeler fights, and he decided that he was worth more than that. And I think the UFC disrespected him in a way where they basically said, we're not going to market this guy as much. They don't really put this guy's accomplishments out there like they should. He, again, one of the most accomplished heavyweight champions in UFC history, and the run that he went on defending that title is so underrated and so undervalued, and it's crazy sometimes to think about the disrespect that's put on Stipe's name. And this would be a perfect legacy fight for Stipe. Dude, if I can retire DC possibly, which that's another question, but Stipe, man, is another guy who's been around the block. This guy is not going to be going away striking wise. And he's a guy that can put it on your chin and knock you down and knock you out. DC's got to be careful, man. He's got to be more wrestling centric this time around. I think he was going to try and bang with Stipe the last time around, and then he caught Stipe and then obviously won that way. But looking at it, man, the type of guys that Stipe has gone through. We're talking about Ngannou, who's back on a tear right now. Junior Dos Santos, one of the most accomplished heavyweight guys in history. Fabricio Verdum, the way he knocked him out. Alistair Overeem, this guy's taken out. Mark Hunt, Andrei Arlovsky. This is a guy who's been around the block, and again, I see a certain upset in the making here tonight with if DC to me right now. He's a guy that might be comfortable just transitioning to the next phase of his career. He's a good announcer. He does really well next to Joe Rogan. And I think that might be something he needs to look at and just say, maybe I can just stop getting punched in the face for a living and, make good money being on TV and make good money, coaching. I think he coaches on the side. So, I think Stipe has a shot at this one, and I think Stipe is probably going to take that fight. If you're asking me, I will go. Let's do this. I will go Stipe by knockout in the second round. I will go Pettis by decision, and then I will go Yoel Romero against Paulo Costa. That one I think will be, let's say, a knockout in the first. I think Yoel, man, that guy's a machine. I mean, I know he's people are like, well, he's 40 years old. He's actually 42. But you look at this guy standing next to Costa. Costa looks like he was a Greek god that was sculpted by, some artist in the, early 19th century. But I think, the more power that you have at that weight division, which Yoel is stacked with it, at middleweight, I think it's going to be a decision. So I got Yoel Romero there. So yeah, guys, I'm going to wrap up here because we are running on a little bit of a time constraint. I did have some car issues earlier, but we are going to be back next week with Nick. Steve, appreciate it. Miro, thank you so much for coming on, talking White Sox with me. I appreciate it. Nick is back in next week, guys. So we will talk to you next week on Mack and Black, guys. Thank you. I'm out. Peace.